Ha nyer az amerikai elnökválasztáson Donald Trump, az amerikai kormány egyik legfontosabb emberévé teheti John McEntee-t. Van már benne rutinja, az előző Trump érában is segítette a volt elnök fehérházi munkáját. A fiatal 34 éves McEntee-nek csaknem 3 millió követője van a TikTokon, és további 1,4 millió az Instagramon. Vajon miért? Mert keresztkérdésekkel bosszantja a liberálisokat.
If white people are so awful, why do you keep moving to their neighborhoods? After watching the opening ceremony of the Olympics, I have to ask, why is it okay to mock Christianity but no other religions? It's funny how things change. 10 years ago, everyone was scared of trans fats, but now everybody celebrates fat trans.
De ez még nem minden. Politikával fűszerezi a randizást, tető alá hozott ugyanis egy rendkívül népszerű konzervatív randiappet, a Date Right Stuffot, kifejezetten olyanoknak, akik tisztelik a hagyományaikat és a konzervatív értékeket keresik leendő partnerükben. John McEntee a haladó progresszívek szemében a szálka, a konzervatívok pedig társadalmi iránytűként tekintenek rá. Az MCC Fest meghívására hazánkba érkezett, én pedig lehetőséget kaptam tőle egy interjúra. Progresszív bosszantás és Trump merénylet, woke és olimpia, az a bizonyos randi app és persze Magyarország, ez mind szóba kerül majd. Tartsatok velünk! John McEntee, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with a hot topic. Paris Olympics opening ceremony was a total woke propaganda. It was seen all over the world. I think it was sick and abnormal. We've all seen the shocking Last Supper display, which is, in my opinion, was totally disrespectful to Christians. And there was also another scandal regarding a female boxer who failed a gender test. She has naturally higher levels of testosterone, but the IOC does not have a specific regulation or rule for this. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the opening ceremonies, some of it was great, but obviously, you know, they love to push the boundaries for no reason. You know, what audience are they appealing to? Why are they doing this? And the question I asked on our social media page is, why is Christianity always okay to be mocked? You know, I don't want to see any religion mocked, but they feel free to do that. And I think a lot of people do find it disrespectful. With the boxer, we made, you know, a funny video about that as well. But I've gotten a lot of comments from people saying, well, it's actually a woman. And then people are saying, well, no, she was born a man. And, you know, I don't know what's going on. I think it's symbolic of what's going on in American culture. I don't know, maybe Western culture in general. And people are using this, whether it's perfectly accurate or not, as a symbol of we're sick of men being in women's sports. And I don't know if that's being unfairly targeted towards this person, but it's a problem in America, and people are noticing that, I guess, around the world.
And it seems that sport goes for woke too. I mean, woke is everywhere nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, woke is everywhere. I mean, I'm optimistic about the conservative movement in the United States and throughout the world, but it seems like the woke agenda has reached its peak, which is unfortunate that we're living during that time. But hopefully that means something good is on the way as well.
Yeah, let's hope that. I follow you on TikTok. Your videos are tremendously popular. You have almost 3 million followers. You post short satirical videos, making controversial statements in a very funny, striking, and creative way. Are you the boogeyman of the liberals?
Yeah, I mean, we like to have fun with it. We try to keep it lighthearted. I also worked in politics, so you know, whenever people try to tie my political work into the TikTok work, I do become a little bit of a boogeyman because, you know, they're scared of like the talking points. They're scared like I might be of influence in government. It's one thing to laugh at the jokes, but they get very scared when they realize, you know, I'm championing conservative policies that might get enacted at some point. So I like doing it. It's a lot of fun. It brings a lot of attention to our business, and yeah, we'll see how it goes and how it grows.
Do you think this is the key for the young voters?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of young people are on TikTok. I think one of the mistakes conservatives make is not speaking to that group, you know, and in order to reach someone, you have to go to where they are. For a long time, conservatives, because of the China threat or scare, weren't using TikTok. So when we went on it and we're, you know, doing the videos we do, like, people were very receptive. They hadn't been seeing that. We're reaching a new audience, and yeah, I think it's super effective.
Már is folytatjuk a beszélgetést John McEntee-vel, de előbb iratkozzatok fel a csatornára, és kapcsoljátok be az értesítőt, hogy ne maradjatok le a mély tartalmakról, a világmagyarázós videóinkról és a szórakoztató sorcokról sem. You also launched a dating app for the right wing, the right stuff. As a conservative, how hard is it to find a partner who shares your values and beliefs nowadays?
Yeah, I think it's hard if you're in a very progressive part of the country. If you're living in San Francisco or Los Angeles or Washington, D.C., it can be difficult. And that's who we really made this for is, you know, we lived in New York and D.C., my colleagues and I, and we were on the dating scene, and you kind of have to hide your beliefs. That's becoming a little less mainstream. You know, people being supportive of Trump or being conservative is becoming a little more accepted than it was in 2017. But yeah, it's nice to have an app where you know everyone is kind of like you. We kind of all agree. We want a normal dating experience. We believe in faith and family and just want to go out and have fun. And yeah, it's going well. We have 26 married couples so far.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know, I was at a meeting yesterday with a gentleman here in Hungary, and he said, "Oh, we have to take a photo because one of my friends in America met his wife on your app." I said, "Well, now we have 27 marriages." You know, so there are ones happening I don't even know about, but it's fulfilling work and it's exciting, and yeah, we'll see how it grows.
You are against efforts to ban TikTok in the US, but obviously there are concerns with big tech companies, and we are exposed to various social media platforms. What is your plan to handle the big tech censorship?
Yeah, so I think TikTok was the scapegoat for a lot of Republicans and conservatives in America. The biggest tech issue of our time is the censorship of conservatives. Now that's being solved through Elon Musk purchasing Twitter. That was a big step. Through Mark Zuckerberg saying he's going to become less political, and through TikTok where the free flow of information actually can happen very quickly. It was the fact that the algorithm for TikTok does work to spread news that, you know, a lot of different content was getting out there, and I think that's part of the reason they wanted to ban it, because when you look at the Republicans and Democrats on the House floor talking about the bill, they're saying all of the things content related to TikTok. There are people against Ukraine funding. There are people that are anti-Israel. There are people that are skeptical of government. You know, well, that's really a content thing. So that doesn't have to do with the ban. I think the ban, you know, working with these companies and holding them accountable has already started to change the discourse. I don't think banning TikTok solves anything. I'm very against it. I actually think it gives the government way too much power, because it's fine now, but what about when the government wants to ban a media company because they're against, you know, funding for Ukraine? You know, you're giving them so much power. It's getting decided in court now. I'm hoping if Trump wins, he can somehow do away with it, but we'll see.
How can we fight against the big tech companies? Because what we experience here in Hungary, that we are banned, we are censored on TikTok or YouTube because of, I do lots of videos on Trump or warmongering politicians or woke topics. TikTok doesn't like that. It's very sensitive and it immediately bans my content.
Yeah, so TikTok originally banned all political content, and now it seems like it's opening up to at least allowing it. I mean, I don't know if that's still happening. It shouldn't be.
It is happening with my own.
Yeah, I mean, that's super unfortunate. I think, you know, the U.S. government, hopefully we get a conservative in power that can hold these companies accountable. I think that's really the only way to do it. I mean, boycotting them doesn't work because they have so much power and control. It's really a monopoly. But if you have a government, there are ways to do it, to hold them accountable and make sure it's a free and open internet with, you know, certain restrictions. But obviously right now it's highly left-leaning and it's super unfair. But I think the wave is turning a little bit.
How do you see the presence of conservatives on online media platforms worldwide?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's growing. I mean, my own page is a good example. When you have social media, you have another way to reach people that they ordinarily wouldn't find you. In the past, you had only legacy media, you had academia, you had Hollywood. But now, if I go out there and talk about a certain issue, you know, people might be hearing that for the first time. There's nothing a liberal or leftist can tell me that I haven't heard before. You know, every professor has said it, every magazine, every newspaper, every actor, every institution has said this stance. There's nothing they can tell me I haven't heard, but there's a lot of things I can tell them that they haven't heard. And so reaching them through social media, I think is improving, and I think it's growing, and I think people are super receptive to it.
So do you see other conservatives walking in your footsteps?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually sort of new to the scene. I think people are starting to use TikTok more, obviously Instagram, Twitter, or X. And then we have our own right-wing apps. Those sort of sometimes turn into their own echo chambers. I think you're better off going to the mainstream app and getting your message there because you reach a lot more people. But yeah, I've seen the appetite for this content growing significantly, and it seems like the mood of our country is growing with it. So, you know, that's a good thing.
Do you agree that the world's best-known media outlets are still controlled by the left? And if so, what's the reason for that?
Well, surely, yes, I believe that. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the left captured a lot of institutions a long time ago, and they've had a hold on them, especially academia and things where these people are rising through the ranks. You know, anyone that works at CNN went to a high-profile university, you know, so automatically through that, they're thinking in a left-wing way. You know, the professions themselves sometimes are left-leaning because, you know, Hollywood, as an example, people are left-leaning. They want to be, you know, conservatism is a little harder to explain. You have to be strong in your beliefs. You have to have a really good, like, sense of purpose, and it's easy to be a liberal. You know, it's just like, you just go with the flow. I'm progressive. Everything's fine. You know, I think it's easier, and I think the stronghold on academia has made it so that all of the elite institutions and elite class, which the media is part of, have just gone so left-wing. Now, is that changing? I don't know. Obviously, we have, you know, Fox News or something, but in terms of the New York Times and CNN and the mainstream outlets, I think they're overwhelmingly left-wing still.
And what about the social media platforms?
Well, certainly the people that own the social media platforms and the leadership of them are left-wing, with exception to Musk with Twitter. The users themselves seem to be pretty conservative. And the content creators themselves, I would say it's split. You know, I see a lot of pro-Trump content on TikTok. I see a lot of pro-Kamala content on TikTok. I don't see it skewed one way or the other. So I think with the content creators themselves, it's pretty split, kind of like how the country is. But the leadership and at these companies is still overwhelmingly left-wing. You know, the top people at Facebook are all left-wing. The top people at Google, all left-wing.
We feel it in our skin.
Yeah. So hopefully we can change that over time.
As far as I know, you are a loyal and prominent figure of the Trump administration. You began your career as an unpaid volunteer during the 2015 campaign and quickly climbed the ranks and become the director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office, overseeing more than 4,000 political appointments. How did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I made a bet early on. You know, Donald Trump made his famous speech, the announcement in June of 2015, down the golden escalator. And I was working a job at Fox, actually. And I was inspired by it. I said, I have to do anything I can to work there. I just knew he had something. I knew this would work. And so that bet actually paid off, you know, and I just got in. I knew if I started as a volunteer, I could work my way up. This was a very small campaign with a small staff, so it was easy to rise through the ranks. I had a lot of different jobs. You know, you start out as a volunteer, but then you're a scheduler, and then you're a trip coordinator, and then you're a travel aide, and then you're in the White House. And then having watched the entire Trump movement happen, I had a good idea of the people around the movement, which translated well into the personnel office. The hiring, the firing, who's good, who's aligned. I just watched it all unfold. I knew his positions well. I'd seen every speech. I'm totally aligned with most of them, if not all of them. And yeah, I think it just, you know, you just work your way up and you take a bet early on. And it's like being part of an early startup. You know, it's like being the 5th employee at Google. It's like I was the 5th employee of the Trump campaign. It's like that pays off. So it was that initial bet and then just hard work over the years.
Good job. Well, obviously you're very close to Mr. Trump. What is it like to work for the President of the United States?
I'm not actually working for him as an advisor. I have a lot of things going on. Obviously the right stuff, the social media. I work for the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. But if he were to win, I'd love to help his administration any way I can. Obviously, we did the staffing the last year of the administration. I'd love to do that. I don't think I'll personally go into government, but he's a very exciting boss like you would expect. And it was really an honor to work for him, yeah.
I closely follow the US election campaign, and here in Europe we can see and actually feel the tension between Democrats and Republicans. Was the assassination attempt an outcome of this?
Certainly there's a lot of tension in the country. The country's very divided. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. I'm still optimistic long-term for the health of the country. This seems like it was a radicalized individual. How he was radicalized, I don't know. You know, I don't want to say he was watching a particular thing or reading a particular book. Obviously, he was unwell. I don't know if that has to do with the divide in the country, but it was unfortunate, and obviously we're all glad the president is okay. It was kind of a scary time.
How do you see Mr. Trump's chances?
And I think when Biden was in the race, it was very high. I think everyone on the right was riding high. I think they were, you know, thought we were sailing to an easy election. Now it's going to be a little bit tougher.
Who is a better opponent, Kamala Harris or Joe Biden?
Well, a healthy Joe Biden. But because of his age, I think Kamala now has more energy. I think the Democrat base is rallying behind her. They love that it's a woman and it's exciting. And, you know, the question is whether or not that can hold. And hopefully it can't. But right now, I think most elections are 50-50, you know, especially in the country. It's just so divided. People just vote party line. Who can turn out their base? And right now, you know, the Democrats have some new energy. But we have Trump, you know, and we'll see. I think it's 50-50.
But people had enough of a lot of things like illegal immigration, the woke madness. How do you see current political affairs in your country?
Yeah, I think Democrats do an amazing job of distancing themselves from those policies. I don't know how they do it. You know, if in people's minds, Republicans are these radicals or these right-wing extremists or they want all these crazy policies, when really that's not true. You know, Republicans are, for the most part, pretty mainstream, normal, obviously conservative, but what the average person would probably agree with. 8 out of 10 of them would. Democrats do a great job of painting themselves as something different. Oh, yeah, of course this transgender stuff's going on. Well, that doesn't have to do with me. You know, that doesn't have to do with me. Well, of course it does. You know, this is directly a result of policy. So I think they just do a good job. They have the media in their pocket, kind of helping frame it differently. And that's why, you know, people will vote for Kamala Harris even if they think, oh, illegal immigration is out of control. They won't connect the two. It's very easy for us to connect the two. But for some reason, the average person going about their life sees men and women's sports and doesn't think that has anything to do with Kamala Harris. You know, they just don't make that link. So I think Republicans have to do a better job linking that. And if they do, they'll be successful.
We'll see. Is this your first time in Hungary?
This is my first time, yes.
How do you see us?
I like it. I've had a great experience. Yeah, I mean, I think next time I'd like to go to Budapest, obviously. But I've had fun in this town, and I've had a great guide, and the festival I'm very impressed with. And the people seem great. I have no complaints.
What do you think of the efforts of our Prime Minister, Mr. Viktor Orbán? He had talks with Donald Trump. They discussed issues related to the chances of peace in Ukraine.
I mean, I think that's great. I know everyone on the right wants an end to the conflict, you know, and if they can work together on that, should we win in November, I think that's great. I know they both think highly of each other, and I know a lot of people on the right, like Tucker Carlson and others, are great fans of your country, and it's exciting to be here.
Conservatives in Hungary are very optimistic that Donald Trump will succeed in November, and you keep up the good work, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Nektek pedig köszönjük a figyelmet, írjátok meg, hogy legközelebb kivel beszélgessek. Sziasztok!